Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for another Journey on the Fly, the podcast. Man, it has been way too long, and I apologize. I have lots of really good and not so good excuses, but we're not going to get into that. We're going to get to the podcast. We're changing the seasonal, I guess we're going to change the timing and how we do things. So, because the schedule has gotten so busy, and I still want to provide content to everybody that's been asking, and thank you, by the way. That means the world to me. It's tremendous. So, we're probably going to do 2 podcasts a month. That's something that I know for certain that I can keep up with. We'll see how winter fishing goes. And yeah, we'll play it by ear. We'll do what we can. We'll continue to provide things for everybody that has responded with the love that you have responded to me with. Man, thank you. Truly, truly, truly thank you. Charlie and Noah and all these folks that have connected with me in the guiding world through the podcast. Man, thank you guys. And you're not the only ones. It truly is overwhelming. And I hope that we can connect again and get you on some fish in better conditions. Fishing that creek or any of the creeks anywhere has just been really, really tough. And one fish is a tremendous success. Multiple fish is just overwhelming. So, yeah, let me help you guys get back on something better, and we'll continue to fine-tune everybody's abilities. So I know that a number of you, like I said, have reached out to me through the podcast, which has been tremendous. And I'm really, truly would like to hear from more of you. What are some subjects, some things that you'd like me to tackle? And I don't mean that in a monologue style. I mean that in a way that, hey, give me recommendations on people to interview, people that you'd like to sit down with and have a chat with, because that's kind of my style, right? Tonight, we're going to be talking with someone who's become a friend of mine. I don't want to say a good friend because that speaks more to our relationship than it's really there, but Chris Cooke is the founder of Outflow, Inc. And man, I had a weekend this year that involved nothing but fly fishing for kids. I made zero money, and it was one of the best weekends fly fishing I've ever had in my entire life. And I didn't catch fish. I didn't even cast a fly rod to catch a fish. So, looking forward to talking about that. We do have some great interviews coming up. We have some people lined up, some people we're trying to get back at us anyway, so that we can line some things up. You will feel a little heavy on the faith side with some of the interviews that are coming up, and just stick with me on that if you're not connected to the whole God thing, because maybe this will be something that plants the seed to get you digging. Because I was just in a conversation recently with 2 of my clients this past Sunday, and it was a beautiful, beautiful experience being with this daughter and this father. They wanted to fly fish together for Father's Day, and it was a tremendous day. They both caught fish. Dad didn't handle the photograph very well, so he has to sketch his daughter's fish. Just kidding. But we had this discussion before. They actually got to a point where I had to go grab my car so I could pick them back up. And it is that there's 2 things you hear all the time that we should never talk about: religion and politics. I have no idea where that phrase has come from, but it's quite stupid, to be honest, because to say that we don't talk about religion and politics is talking about religion and politics. As a matter of fact, it's expressing a real view about religion and politics. So here's my take on that. Politics is one of the most important subjects we can discuss, because the laws that govern us and those that create those laws that govern us seem to be a pretty darn important subject to me. Secondly, the man who wrote, and I forget, as a matter of fact, as I'm talking about this, I'm going to look it up. The man who wrote the very large volume of the history of philosophy, and I think it was Frederick Charles Copleston, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but it was this relatively large volume, right? I think it was actually multi-volumes. I think it's a 9-volume set. People continued to ask the question to him over the years, why in the history of philosophy does it seem like you bring up the God question over and over and over? And it's interesting because his reply, and again, I'm sorry if it's not Copleston, but I think it was of all the questions in all the universe, no greater implications stem from the idea, from the question, does God exist? It changes everything if we take it seriously, right? I think it's interesting because I don't mind in the sense that if some of you listeners are atheists or agnostics, don't mind that at all. It doesn't bother me one single bit. I love you the same. But if there are those that are listening that haven't investigated the most important question there is and come to a really good, solid conclusion that you could defend, then you have some work to do, I think. Because if God exists, then purpose and meaning now actually truly come into play. If he doesn't, there isn't. It's make-believe. It's whatever you choose to claim is true and purposeful and meaningful. But if somebody holds a contrary view of your views, well, there's no grounding outside of ourselves then. There's no higher truth. There's no level of, even bringing morality into it, there's no level of morality beyond ourselves at that point. So it becomes relative, right? That's all I'll say about that for now. But we'll be talking a little deeper about some of those things. Some of my guests coming up, yes, they hold the same views in some respects as I do. They're motivated by those views. They hold a biblical worldview. But not all of them do, right? Not all my guests do, and that's okay. In one sense, it's okay. It's not a requirement to be on this show, but I've expressed it before that that's foundation to who I am, and I'm not swaying from it. So let's get into this. Let's talk to Chris Cooke about Outflow Inc. Ladies and gentlemen, find us on everywhere podcasts are found, right? iHeart, Radio, Spotify, Google Play, iTunes. When you find us, I'm asking you, please, leave a short review. Say something about us because it helps us. It helps generate more people seeing the podcast. And man, when I share this out there in the world of social media and you're connected with me, share it for me, please. Let the world hear the stories about fly fishing and life, about all these wonderful people that we've chatted with so far and those to come. Let's get into this interview. So we'll just get into this. Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself. The stuff that you're okay telling. You don't have to get too deep personal, but kind of tell us the outdoors. Your kind of backstory on that. Is it a family thing? How did you find yourself so passionate about the outdoors and experiencing it with other people?
It is a family thing. I was a lucky kid, grew up in Washington County. I've always been a Pennsylvania kid. And my father loved being outside, loved fishing, he loved hunting. So he was happy to drag me along and my sister too. And sometimes my mom go fishing with us too. I was lucky we were not very far away from Cross Creek Lake, Cross Creek County Park in Washington County. So that was nice. We did a lot of bluegill fishing and largemouth fishing. We also fished trout in the springs, the stock streams, and so on, Raccoon State Park, areas like that. We also camped in the summer, Pymatooning, Lake Erie. So we were up to Lake Erie fishing for walleye and smallmouth and whatever else would hit when we were out there bouncing around in that 14-foot aluminum boat. But so I was lucky that way. I was brought along by my dad, and in his love of being outside, and I love it just as much as he does. So,
I over this past weekend probably should have said. Nah, I'm not going to say I should have said no. I made a rule when I started down the business side of everything that I would not say no to just about everything. So I got to experience 3 days straight of fathers and sons and fathers and a daughter and everything from like 30-year-olds to a 5-year-old. And I'm going to tell you what, this 5-year-old, oh my gosh, every single time he would cast a fly rod on Saturday morning, he would go, whoa! Dude, I cracked up so hard. I told his dad, I said, you not so much, you can bring him back anytime. I had so much stinking fun. And I told him all three groups, I'm like, I really truly envy stories like what you just kind of alluded to there and told about your dad was so passionate about it and he brought you guys into it. And now, not only have you probably introduced your own children to it, you've seen the importance of it so much. And I want you to, that's a question I have for you. Why is it that experiencing the outdoors, experiencing life outdoors, which is kind of a motto for your organization, Outflow
Yes,
Inc.
absolutely. Yes, it is.
Why is that? Why is it so important to you, for the rest of us and for the rest of the world to experience that?
Well, as far as first off, it's just something that I like to do. I have a tendency, if I love it, I like to share it with other people. As far as why is it important to the rest of the communities, a couple things. One is environmentally. I think that those who hunt and fish and trap are more in tune with their environment and more in tune with what is going on outside. So I like that aspect of it for sure. As well as, hunting and fishing and trapping, especially, they're often under attack by people that don't understand it. There are antis out there. And I believe that the more fishermen there are, the more hunters there are, the more outdoorsmen we have, then there's a much greater chance that we will carry that legacy on way past me, way past my kids and grandkids. So that's why I love to share. Just personally for me, I love to share it, and then also for the legacy of those types of pursuits.
That's awesome. And it's interesting because it is really true. A lot of the folks that seem to be a bit anti on some things generally don't have a full grasp on what they're actually holding a view against. And that goes both ways. That isn't just
that's true.
From my worldview on. There's goofy people, and I know I've done it. There's things that I don't understand that I've kind of pushed my presuppositions and stuff on people. And then you kind of step back and you listen a little bit and you go, oh, I get it a little bit and all that. Which is, in a sense, is what your, a very, very minor goal I heard in there was, if kids get involved with this and adults with their kids, they begin to explore something in a depth that they didn't understand, they didn't appreciate. And he realized that, what's that movie, the Will Smith movie? I Am Legend. Okay. We see this post-apocalyptical type of movie where the deer are thriving and there's now lions in Central Park and all this kind of stuff. And nature's just running free and rampant and it's just beautiful and abundant. And reality is that that's just not quite how it works. That ends up being some kind of overabundance here or there somewhere. And there really does seem to be the need for people to understand that there's a management that has to go on from a man's side of things.
We are part of the natural world. And yes, sometimes we're going to have to step in. That is true.
So I had talked to everybody, kind of pre-recorded a little bit of an intro here. And I had mentioned that so far this year, and I don't know how it's going to become any better, but I'm open to it. The best weekend of my life was nothing but fly fishing, not with kids, but kind of like, well, I guess you could say with kids, both with the event that I did with you and the event that I participated with the Mayfly Project. And it literally has been the highlight of my entire year. And the funny part of it all is that it was never an intention to make money at any of those things, both from your standpoint and mine.
Right. Right.
And maybe that was the freeing part of it for me. I don't know. Just, if I could just do that all the time and somehow somebody paid my bills. But um, it was tremendous. So tell us about, like, how did the trout tangle? How did that kind of get birthed originally, and what all's kind of involved with that? Like, why do you do it, and what actually happens? Like, let everybody know that may have never heard of it before through this show. Like, what happens at this trout tangle in Washington County?
The trout tangle itself, it mostly it has grown. It has grown quite a bit. I originally I wanted to put some trout into a stream and had some kids fish. That was as simple as I thought it was going to be. And my wife explained to me, she was a marketing executive for quite a while, and she dealt with a lot of events. And when I explained to her what I wanted to do and how I wanted to go about getting a sponsor for it, or as a partner, as she taught me that would be called, she said, you have to have an event. You can't just have, like, you can't. It's not like a school picnic. You have a lot of people. You have to promote it. You have to have some tents and events, and I wasn't sure about that part. So it, like I said, has grown kind of out of my control. My original idea, I ran past a buddy of mine, like, hey, that's what I'm thinking about doing. What do you think about that? And he is now one of my board members. And so we approached a local energy company and see if they would be interested. We also had to we had to find a place. I just had an idea of what I wanted to do, but we needed a location. So my buddy Ryan and I were kind of bouncing around different ideas on where to go. We had to find private ground. We found we couldn't do it on a game lands. So we were able to, I was on Onyx just kind of bouncing through some areas and noticed a last name Zappy. Some people that I was kind of familiar with but didn't know very well had a large tract of land. And I called Mr. Zappy and said, sir, here's my idea. I'd like to have some kids down and fish. I want to put fish in the stream on your property. Is that okay? And he was incredibly gracious and said, absolutely, come on down. And from there, we learned on how to apply for permits through Fish Commission and through the Game Commission, and put that all together. And the Consol Cares Foundation has been great with us, with providing funding for the fish. And then we realized we needed kids. Weren't sure how we were going to go about that. We started printing flyers and then approaching different local schools, grade schools, high schools, and asking if we could pass out the flyers. And through that, we ended up with a little over 100 kids the first year, which we were thrilled with. We were absolutely excited that we had over 100 kids. And from there, we also had, in that first year, the Fish Commission had a booth. The Game Commission had a booth. We had a food truck come in. That was the only way we could decide that we'd be able to feed everyone. We had a food truck come in and fed everyone that way, and it worked really well. From there, the next year I decided, I said, we really, really need a fly fishing section. And so approached a couple people about that. A friend of ours, Mr. Jack Barr, stepped in and said, Chris, I got it. I can handle that. We'll take care of that section. You deal with the rest. In that second year, we had well over 200 kids fishing. And we were jaw dropped. Consol Cares was really excited about it. And then so we moved even forward. Now we're gonna have a speaker. I invited this fellow, Mr. Adam Corman, to come down and speak, which he graciously did. Thank you so much for coming down. It was awesome. And now this year we've had 350 kids fishing at our event, and we are trying to claim that we are the largest kids fishing event this side of the state, and we have absolutely no idea if that's true or not, but we keep saying it. We're trying to get someone to tell us we're wrong. So it's really cool. One of the great things about it, not just that we're getting such great response from the kids and such great response from the parents, but we have a load of volunteers. We have 30 some people coming down and helping out. And many of them have no skin in the game. They don't have kids or grandkids. They just want to come help. And it's absolutely incredible the response we get from the volunteers. I had run into a guy randomly on a job site last summer who turned out to be a football coach at Avonworth, and he brought his players down to volunteer. Um, they help run the golf carts. They help do anything, carry generators, setting up tents, everything. They were spectacular, and there's no reason for them to come down other than just being good people. Um, there's a lot of people out there that seem to have that belief that they have a poor outlook on humanity in general. And I would encourage you, if you are one of those people, come to the Trout Tangle and you might change your mind. There are just, you're looking at nearly 1,000 people, and there is just nothing but smiles from the kids and the parents and the volunteers. It is an incredible event that I couldn't ask for any more from it. I'm amazed by it. I'm really excited to be part of it.
I'd like to say, like, something I noticed, like, that was a lot of people there, but only because you just told me. The organization and the cooperation with all those volunteers and how you guys had run it, I thought it felt like, especially because we're in the field there, it felt like I was walking into the fairground somewhere, except it was fishing instead of the merry-go-round or whatever. I mean, it was tremendous. You would have never known, because of how broken up and everything was, and the fact that it was fields and woods and stream, that there was that many people there. That was really interesting to me, which means, and I dare say this, it could take a lot more people. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of fish put in there too.
We're stocking a little over 3/4 of a mile of stream, and this year we put in 2,500 fish. So that, incredible amount of fish, obviously, for that day, and then for weeks to come after that. Our permit lasts for nearly 60 days, and that allows for people to come in and continue. We control the age group, so we're 15 and under, and it's kids only for 60 days. They can come back and catch fish over and over and over again, and they do. Every time I stop down this year, or one of the board members stopped in, or one of the volunteers stopped in, there were kids down there catching trout for a very long time after the actual event.
Yeah, I've never seen so many trout piled up on top of themselves, except when I'm helping stock a stream. I mean, right. It is literally a dream come true, in my opinion, for either a child who is introduced to fishing, or a dad or a mom, or whatever the case may be, that loves it that much and wants to introduce their kid. There was the guy, I got his business card right in front of me. It's terrible. I just forgot his name. But one of the inventors of high and dry fly fishing products, some of the floatants. And Ken Myers and I had a chat on this podcast a while back, and he told the story of how he got into fly fishing. And it was something on the lines, I think, up north somewhere, like Tioga, or somewhere north central Pennsylvania. There's kind of a trout farmish place that they stock a real nice creek up there, and he's up there, and a buddy took him up there, and he had fly fish for the first time ever there. And he happened to catch like a 26-inch rainbow trout or something.
I remember the story.
Most people, and I'll say this because I just like to correct stupid people in the world when we can, because I've been one of them and am regularly, especially in the fly fishing world, have a tendency to really look down on stocked fish. But Ken's story as an adult is really just, it's a tremendous way of seeing how fruitful stocked fish can be for a person's future outlook and depth that they may jump into in the outdoors. Ken caught that fish and he never looked back, and he got hooked. And a lot of people, oh, it's a stock fish, this and that. We had this conversation yesterday that, listen, I've watched those fish acclimate very, very well. You can't breed out instinct. Yeah, they get fed pellets and such, but they have to survive in the natural world when they're put there. And they're going to instinctively find, those hydraulic pockets and whatever food that's there to consume it. And there was food in this creek that we were fishing, and you put those in. I saw plenty of mayflies and stoneflies, which is really good because
Yes.
stoneflies are the most sensitive of all, and that's a really good indication that it's a creek, at least up and coming, anyways. Temperature stinks, that messes a lot of our creeks up out this way, but that's a different story. But this, for this instance, like you take Ken's story and then you apply it to 300, to potentially 350 kids that may have never caught a trout before. Man,
That may have never caught a trout. And I would add to that, what it comes down to, yeah, they're stocked fish, but they're fun.
yeah,
And
yes,
that's really what getting out there is all about. There's some individuals out there that they have to catch the native or the wild or whatever it may be. That's fine. If that's what you want to do, go do that. But don't knock me and all my kids and that come fishing, because we're out there to have fun. And you can have fun with stocked fish. There's just no doubt about that.
absolutely. It's kind of in the same terms. I was talking to a group of people. What was that? Monday, and I kind of started my talk with them with, if you ask 10 different people what fly fishing is, you'll get 10 different answers.
True.
And I said, my answer is fundamentally, it's trying to trick a trout that what you have tied to something that imitates a bug that it survives off of is in fact tied to something. I don't care. From there on, I don't care how you do it and how you define it. Just go have fun doing it. It
Just go
doesn't
have fun.
matter. Yeah. I mean, I am not opposed to spin fishing or anything. I just want to see. Maybe that's why I got so overwhelmed with what you're doing there, is that eye to eye in respect to what you're doing is, I just want to see more kids outdoors. I want to see families with their kids outdoors because there's fun there. There's memories there. A guy was with his daughter on Sunday, and older gentleman, not the most tech savvy as some older gentlemen are, and that's totally fine. She caught a fish. We're doing dry dropper because the water was low and clear. He caught a fish on the nymph. She caught a fish, came up and took her dry. He took
Cool.
the picture of her, so he thought. So the moral of the story was, after because I announced to them as soon as they got out of the cars, I'm like, do you guys have thick skin? They're like, yeah, why? I'm like, because we're going to make fun of each other all day long. So he comes out of the water. He's telling me the story that he, discovering he didn't get the picture. And I said, how good are you as a sketch artist? Because you owe your daughter a picture. And but the moral of the story is when I told him, I'm like, listen, I'm like, picture or no picture, you guys just made a memory together that will last you forever. And that's exactly what I saw happening all day long with moms and dads and uncles and aunts and grandpaps and grandmothers on this event that you do through Outflow Inc. And dang it was so much stinking fun. It really truly was.
It's a lot of fun, and our goal isn't just. I love fishing and I love to share it, but we also see it as this kind of a 101 entry level into the outdoors. That was one of the things I thought about when we started, because I tried to think about different ways to get kids into the outdoors, and I landed on the fishing event specifically because I thought it was a little bit simpler. There are youth pheasant hunts out there, and the youth pheasant hunts are great, but I really thought that there would be some of those parents that are not outdoor people and their kids aren't yet either. They'd be a little apprehensive to have their kid have a shotgun in the field that they've never had before, but they would be much more open to, yeah, okay, I can hand my kid a fishing rod. And then you find out, if you come to our event, you don't need equipment, you don't need any know-how. You just need to show up, because we have the equipment, we have the people to show you how to do it. We have everything there. Just show up and go fish, and we're going to probably be able to make you successful in that event that day at least. And then hopefully from there on, you find some other interest in the outdoors as well. It doesn't just have to be fishing. I don't care if you only turn into a kayaker, but you end up at our event talking to another family that's next to you, and maybe they're going to an archery shoot the next weekend or something, and you end up you start making friends with other outdoorsmen, and before you know it, you're maybe shooting your bow, or maybe you are going to that pheasant hunt, whatever it may be. But we see it as a great entry level into the outdoors.
So here's a question for you, and maybe it's controversial. Was there any consensus throughout the weekend, and I know this would be a hard thing to answer, of what seemed to be more successful in people catching fish? And I don't mean fly fishing, spin fishing. I mean, was there a particular lure or anything like that that anybody picked up on? Said this thing really kind of banged the fish out where everything else that people tried didn't seem to do well.
Interestingly enough, the fly fishing section, the kids that were up there in that upper part of the stream were more successful than as a whole than the kids in the lower section. I think that the water this year was really low and really clear. And there were a lot of boots that were really close to the fins that were in the water. And I think that the fly fishing section, we have a little more control over pressure up there. And there was a little lighter pressure. I think that made the fish a little less spooky up high. And so, quite honestly, it was the fly fishing kids that caught more fish per kid, at least, than those that were the spin fishermen with, whether it was, there were guys with minnows, there's, waxworms, mealworms, red worms, whatever it be. But the upper section with the fly fishing seemed to be the kids that were more successful this year.
That's interesting, and it was interesting too that you brought the pressure side of it up, because
Yes.
that's probably at the end of the day. I mean, I'd like to be biased and say some other things, but probably at the end of the day, it's pressure. I mean, when I take 4 people out, including myself, it's hard to hide 4 people from fish. It just is. So, and they are stalked or not stalked. Man, those fish, they don't like to see shadows. So, that's pretty cool though. So, anything else that is the trout tangle it, or do you got any other mad scientist ideas that you might kind of, I don't want to say up the game, because I don't think there is such a thing, but to add to the trout tangle? Are there any other things like that you may be thinking about, like another event?
Well, we've kicked around the idea of another event. I have another partner that approached us that wants to foot the bill for a different event. I actually have a section of stream picked out. Officer Stark with the Fish Commission has another section of stream picked out for him because he likes it so much that he enjoys it. He'd like to see us do another one. I don't know if not next year. We will not do another one. I love to be able to do another event in the future. It is an overwhelming amount of work, I have found out. And I think that if I went home and I told my wife, even though I think she is the coolest girl in the world, she might throw me out if I told her we were going to do another one. So that I like I said, I think we have the stream picked out. We have the sponsor that is willing. So we might try to, but I don't think we're going to be able to do it next year. We see Outflow. There's a few different options. There's a few things. We also we're kind of breaking the ground on looking into some stream restoration stuff. That's also part of our mission is stream restoration, and we're slowly getting. I don't know anything about that. That's one of the things I kind of laughed. We talked about maybe me doing this. I thought this is going to be tough, Adam. I'm not all that intelligent of a guy. I'm not a biologist. I'm not a scientist. It's really tough, but I'm learning about stream restoration. I'm learning about what it takes to get into that, and I'd like to see us move in that direction as well. But that's not the near future, but that is on down the road.
That's exciting for me to hear, because I have jumped into some Trout Unlimited groups this year, because it seems like some of the more fishy groups only want to throw fish in the water and aren't pounding nails as much as they used to, at least Western Pennsylvania. And I think there's a lot of simple things that could be done to streams. I mean, you need 3 things, at least for trout. You need 3 things for any fish. I mean, you need oxygen, you need food supply, and you need some kind of cover. And most stream restorations, or at least stream improvements in some cases, are going to produce something like that. I mean, you have a couple of triaxle loads of limestone boulders that you could place throughout the stream in the dry season. That's going to tremendously break up water. It's going to oxygenate the water in certain places, give fish pockets to hide in, and all that kind of fun stuff. But Yeah, it's a lot of work, and even some of the interviews with some of the people I've done, I do that kind of work. I think the permitting and all that's probably more difficult than the physical labor at
It
some
is.
point.
There's some things to traverse. There's no doubt, and that's another aspect of it that I need to be educated on. But I think we'll be able to leap that hurdle. We'll be able to do that side of it. It's finding location. It's coming up with the backing for it, and then just knowing what you're doing when you get to it. That's all. So there's a few too many hurdles at the moment, but I really feel confident that we're gonna dive into that eventually.
Well, Chris, I know this is your gig and your board's gig, but man, anytime something comes up that if I can help, don't ever hesitate
Oh,
to
you don't
to
have a
reach
choice.
out
I'm
to me.
dragging you into it head first. Adam, no doubt.
I already told my son, I'm like, dude, you should have came this year because next year you're coming to help. You don't get to fish. He's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, you know what you're doing, and the more you teach, the more you learn what you're doing, anyways. So
That is very true, and that's funny because I told my son the same thing. He's 13 this year. I told him, I was like, I don't know if you're going to be able to fish next year, so you better live it up this year. You might be having to help. You might be one of the guys in the green vest. You might be one of the volunteers. So
oh, dang it. Well, let's kind of poke this out this way. Give us how do we find Outflow Inc. and how can people help? How could people get involved?
the best way to help is just to get on the website. The event is in April. It will be in April again next year, but outflowinc.com. And from there is all the contact information. You can email me if you're interested in volunteering at the event itself. On there is also our link to donate. Nothing happens without the money to make it happen. We need help just like anyone does. So that's the best way. You can also find us on Facebook. And same thing with Outflow INC. And through all that, volunteers is a big thing. We love volunteers. We have great volunteers, but we're always looking for more. There's no doubt.
Yeah, I mean everybody except for Jack Barr. That's a tough one. And I know he'll hear this. That's why I'm saying that. So yeah, stay away from that guy.
Jack has been spectacular working with our fly fishing section, and his wife Kim. She brought her drink trailer down this year, and she helped out with serving the drinks on the food side of things. But they have been instrumental in helping make this successful. There's no doubt.
That's awesome. He'll be on here eventually. I'm just waiting until I get further away from him. He's not such a close friend, but because the truth is that you brought Jack in to eventually get Kim. That's how that works,
right? Yeah.
In reality. But sorry, Jack. No, just kidding. Well, Chris, do you got any kind of last words that you'd like to say to anybody? And if you don't, that's fine too.
Yeah, I don't know that I do. Just if anyone is listening that volunteered, that helped make this happen, thank you. And thank you to you, Adam, one, for coming down, volunteering, for speaking, for helping the kids fish, for giving me this opportunity to talk about Outflow. I really appreciate that. No, but that's about all. Nothing too specific beyond that.
Okay, no poetry or songs?
No. I wish I could do either or both of those. No, I lack that ability.
Yeah, nobody wants to hear that from me either. So, good company once again. All right, brother. Well, this has been a joy. I appreciate you doing what you're doing and keep doing that. And yeah, I want to thank everybody that was there that I didn't get to meet or all that. I mean, it was truly tremendous. It's awesome what you're doing for these kids and really in turn for the parents. So.
Thank you very much. We just hope they keep taking them fishing after that, and hopefully those kids grow up to be outdoors men and women. That's all.
Heck yeah. All right, brother. Well, I'm going to let you go. You have a good night with your family.
Thank you, Adam. You too. And again, thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, man. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Chris Cooke, Outflow Inc. And Chris is not by himself on this. He would be pretty upset with me if I thought or made it sound like it was just him. It may have been his brainchild, but there are so many people involved in this beautiful event, this beautiful organization. So yeah, find them. Outflow Inc. I will have the link in the description, both the Facebook and the direct link to their website. And listen, peel open your pocketbooks. Open your wallets for this one. I'm practically begging you on it because, man, these kids are so worth it. And seeing the adults light up when their child potentially hooks into their first trout ever. And I'm telling you, they didn't put baby fish in there. There were whales in there. I mean, Moby Dick was in that water and people were trying to catch him. It was fantastic. And man, if you have the time to volunteer, hit up Chris and get connected and all that other fun stuff. And if there's any people out there that have organizations that would make a difference in these kids' lives and getting involved, yell at Chris, get out there and let him know. And until the next time, I hope you guys enjoyed this and this little bit of exposure to the world of the outdoors through this conversation and how vital it is to get our kiddos out there for so many reasons. Till the next time, keep your lines wet and your flies in the fish's mouth. Later.